let us talk about the steps of installing strain gauge on reinforcing bars. Taking this as an example, the strain gauge used is FLA 311 5LT. Based on the coding, you know that this strain gauge is a F-series strain gauge, single axis strain gauge. The gauge length is 3 mm. The details of the compensation materials, and it is an integral lead wire strain gauge of 5 meter length. In fact, we have discussed about the meanings of the coding in our previous videos. In this case, we are using CN adhesive to bond the strain gauge onto the reinforcing bar. You may also apply the coating material such as W1, SP tape, and also P2. Other than that, you may also apply VM tape and also the other type of self-bonding tape. For your information, W1, SP tape, and VM tape are meant to protect the strain gauge against water and moisture. As for P2 adhesive, it is used to provide physical protections to the strain gauge. We also discussed about their functions in our previous videos. Now, let us look at the key points when installing strain gauge on reinforcing bar. We first talk about the surface preparation. Personally, I feel this is the most important part that you need to pay attention when you are installing strain gauge on reinforcing bar. Many researchers did not do it right, especially those did not actually go through the installation manuals for the strain gauge. Now, the principles of installing the strain gauge is to minimize the damage to the profile of the bar. If possible, we do not want to cause any damage to the bar. But if you see the surface conditions of a typical steel bar, there are ribs on the steel bar. Let's say now we are using this FLA 3 strain gauge, which is this one. The FLA 3 here means 3 mm gauge length. When the gauge length is 3 mm, the entire strain gauge here, which is known as the gauge backing length, should theoretically be greater than 3 mm. Based on the dimensions given in the table here, we know that this gauge backing length it will be 8.8 mm. Theoretically, you should be able to fit the strain gauge on the surface of the test specimen. However, you will need a larger working space for the installations of the strain gauge. You will need space for the adhesive as well as additional area for the coating in order to protect the strain gauge. Now, the space between the bar ribs may not be sufficient for you to install the strain gauge. You also know that having the strain gauge to be properly installed onto the steel bar, you will need a nice flat surface. This shall result you needing to grind off some part of the ribs in order to acquire a bigger flat surface on the steel bar for the installations of the strain gauge. Now, the process of grinding the ribs on the steel bar will have to be done carefully, and this can lead to the damage to the steel bar. Going back to the fundamentals of the tensile capacity of the steel bar, the tensile strength of the steel bar is governed by the effective cross-sectional area of the steel bar. Now, if you overgrind the surface of the reinforcement bar, the effective cross-sectional area at the regions that you grind reduces, and this reduces the tensile capacity of the reinforcing bar. This is the last thing that we want. Our purpose of installing strain gauge is to do the measurement. Now, during the process of installing the strain gauge, we cause some damage to the steel bar and then weakens the steel bar. This defeats the purpose of measuring the actual capacity of the steel bar. In order to overcome this, now that grinding the surface of the steel bar cannot be avoided, we will have to minimize the damage to the profile of the steel bar. Now the question is, how do we do this? It is recommended that when you need to remove the ribs on the steel bar, do not remove the longitudinal ribs. What does it mean? This is the longitudinal rib. These are the transverse rib. If you view from this side of the reinforcing bar, the longitudinal ribs is also providing the effective cross-sectional area of the steel bar. Although it may seem to be quite little, however, due to the high stress capacity of the steel, this may lead to large variations in terms of the tensile capacity of the steel bar. Now, in order to minimize the reductions in terms of the tensile capacity of the tension steel bar, you may remove these transverse ribs. If you look at the cross-sectional area here, the existence of this transverse rib shall cause no effects onto the tensile capacity, as stress can always concentrate at the regions with the smallest effective cross-sectional area of the steel bar. For example, this region. With that said, removing this rib shall not lead to any reductions in terms of the ultimate capacity of this reinforcing bar. Again, this is something that I have to admit. When I did my postgraduate study, I was taught to remove the ribs, which is the longitudinal to the reinforcement bar. This led to my confusions. Having the ribs here removed, that means this will reduce the ultimate capacity of the reinforcement bar. This will affect our measurements. Not knowing that, we can actually choose a proper locations to remove without affecting the capacity. This is the first aspect you need to know when you install the strain gauge onto the reinforcement bar. Now, the second aspect that you need to know is about the countermeasures for the adhesion force between the concrete and steel bar. Let's say now the steel bars that you are measuring is to be embedded within concrete. A typical steel bar will be bonded with the concrete. There are three mechanisms in ensuring the bonds of the concrete with the steel bar. First is the adhesions between the surface of the steel in contact with concrete. This is known as the chemical adhesions with concrete. This kind of chemical adhesions will require the steel to have direct contact to the concrete. Second, there will be frictions between the reinforcement bar and the concrete. Now, this frictional resistance and the chemical adhesions will be taking place even though on the flat surface of the steel bar. Now, the third mechanism to ensure good bond between the steel bar and the concrete, it will be due to the ribs on the steel bar. This is known as the mechanical interlocking between the ribs of the steel bar and the concrete. Among these three types of mechanism, the chemical adhesions, frictional resistance, and the mechanical interlocking of the ribs. The mechanical interlocking of the ribs will give the most significant contributions to the bond strength of the steel bar. This is about the fundamentals of bonding of the steel with the concrete. Now let us come back to the installations of the strain gauge onto the reinforcing bar. When you need to install strain gauge onto the reinforcing bar, first you will need a flat surface for the strain gauge to be attached onto the reinforcing bar. Now you will have to grind the ribs off so that you have a flat surface and sufficient area for the installations of the strain gauge. Now when you choose to grind the ribs off, in order to minimize the effects onto the bond between the reinforcement bar and the concrete, you should grind the least number of the ribs as possible. If it is achievable, you only need to grind off one horizontal ribs. You would like to minimize the reductions due to the loss of the ribs interlocking with the concrete. And then you look at the installation process. There should be coating on the strain gauge in order to protect the strain gauge from moisture and water, and very often SP tab, VM tab will be used. When these two types of coating is applied, that particular region will have the steel bar separated from the concrete. This shall affect the bond contributed by the frictional resistance as well as the chemical adhesions. Even though the contributions by the frictional resistance and the chemical adhesions of the reinforcing bar is not that significant, but if we go back to the fundamental of doing research, when we want to do any measurements, we do not wish to impose significant changes to the original situations in order to acquire as accurate result as possible. With that said, now you will have to make the strain gauge installation area as small as possible so that the bond at that particular regions is marginally affected by the process of installing the strain gauge. If you can work with the small regions without compromising the quality of installations of the strain gauge, by all means, try to do that. Now the third key point about installing strain gauge on the reinforcing bar. It is about the applications of coating to withstand the embedment in concrete. When the reinforcing bar with the strain gauge installed is to be embedded in concrete, you will expect the concrete to be cast together with the reinforcing bar. You know that the casting process of concrete shall include pouring the concrete into the formworks, vibrating the fresh concrete for compactions. There will be aggregates within the concrete. Now this casting process and compacting the concrete will have mechanical movements of the constituents of the concrete. And now the strain gauge, which has already been installed onto the reinforcing bar, shall be subjected to a harsh environment, especially during the casting process. This includes the pressurized water, physical movements of the constituents of the concrete, as well as the chemical attacks. There is a need for you to install coating in order to protect the strain gauge against this harsh environment. The least it will be protections against the water and moisture. Now, if you cannot guarantee a single layer of protections is good enough, you can consider using multi-layer coating in order to protect the strain gauge. Another thing about casting the concrete is that you make sure the lead wire of the strain gauge are not embedded fully together with the strain gauge within the concrete. You will need the lead wire to be outside of the formworks so that that particular end can later be connected to the data logger for the measurement. Now, if you leave the entire lead wire within the concrete, you are unable to measure the strain gauge anyway. Once it is hardened, it remains inside the test specimen. Now, having the lead wires to be placed outside of the formwork, you will need to find a mechanism to station the lead wire, protect the lead wire against the physical movement in order to prevent any damage to the connections with the strain gauge. Normally, I will have the lead wire to be properly covered. Find the shortest route from the reinforcing bar where you installed to the nearest formwork. Put it outside the formwork. Cover the lead wire properly. Place it against the outer surface of the formwork, and then find some mechanism to tie the lead wire against the reinforcing bar along this pathway. The intention here is to minimize the possible movement of the lead wire during the casting of the concrete, as well as during the compactions of the concrete. Normally, I will have the lead wire follow the pathway of the reinforcing bar. At certain interval, I tie the lead wire against the reinforcing bar as a support to the lead wire. You will need to cover the heads of the lead wire as well in order to prevent any direct contact with the concrete, so that it is free from the impurities that may affect the sensitivity in conducting the electricity.